I've got 30 minutes until my next client session, and that's just enough time to convince you to not follow your dreams. My neighbour is revving the motorbike, the dogs are barking in the neighbourhood, but I have learnt this lesson the tough way from the last 5 years of working with clients. Most people should not follow their dreams because A, they don't have an understanding of what a true dream actually is, and B, they don't know the difference between the outer expression or physical materialization of the dream versus the inner expression of the dream. Neither is the dream authentic for a long-term vision, nor do they have the right perception that the inner matters more than the outer, and this is something which is missing from the conversation. I'm going to do all I can in about the next 20 minutes. I haven't prepared everything wonderfully. I've got this much planning on my post-it note, the difference between temporary motivation, inner expression, and outer expression, and I've got this wonderful question to bring up on the screen and bring out some brutal truth from having worked with very intelligent, very ambitious, very sensitive, spiritual individuals, but still seeing the same pattern over and over again. Unfortunately, the dreams rarely last a test of multiple years, and many people, even very smart people, they do not materialize their dreams because they don't have the... Well, we'll talk about it. We will talk about it. I'm going to bring up the question. So today's question on the screen. I would like to talk to you about calling. What do we do when it feels as if we're called to a higher purpose and yet we're scared shitless of our own bigness? Can we follow the calling and still make a living? Or are we crazy for trying? The short answer is that you're not crazy for trying, but your standards and expectations of what the golden shadow might be presenting you, your true higher self vision versus the realistic materialization of that, is probably quite askew. If you're doing authentic shadow work and your inner work is taking you to a place of inspiration, you have glimpsed your golden shadow. You've glimpsed your higher potential. The shadow is in the lower unconscious and the higher unconscious. The negativity, the darkness, the sludge, the light, the positivity, the potential, self-actualization, self-transcendence, and then there's more of the classic shadow material. We're focusing over here. When you glimpse your golden shadow potential in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, you are usually glimpsing a few years ahead, if not a few decades ahead. The first time that I really glimpsed my golden shadow potential, I was looking decades ahead of where I was. I remember in my teenage years, I was glimpsing myself in my mid-30s, maybe 20 years ahead. And now I have glimpses of myself in my 80s, writing in a lovely wooden-panelled round circular office environment. I'm writing at a desk, looking out the window, pine trees, of course, and I'm still very healthy, very radiant, very intellectually sharp. I know to my bones, I'm in this for life. I'm here. I'm a teacher. I'm a creative. I'm a thinker. I feel that inscribed from the inside out. It is both the bone and the space between the marrow. It is all those pockets of air. And I felt like this since my teenage years. The materialization of how I felt when I was a teenager versus my outer reality situation of the kinds of friends I had, the kinds of people that I was in relationships with, the kinds of external manifestations in terms of income, in terms of blah, 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 didn't happen. It still only partially happened. Arguably, it can't fully happen until you reach your full human potential, which is the entirety of life. Where does this lead you in terms of your dreams and your callings? I'm bringing in a bit of my story because I'm living this here, right here with you. I've got so much I could say on this, but I'm just going to be as direct as I can. Most people do not take enough time to really, truly strip back the casing of the dream and look to the center. If you peel open the outer layer, what is the essence of your golden shadow potential? What is your calling in this life? It's not an outer manifestation, it's an inner manifestation. It is the character that you become. It is the texture of your internal emotional landscape. It's the quality of your presence. It's the clarity of your consciousness. For many people who watch this channel, you're interested in ideas such as spirituality, creativity, entrepreneurship and business, or otherwise self-development in a generalized and quite niche, but still, holistic sense. You're interested in the big picture. You're interested in becoming the full package. How do you materialize the full package version of yourself as a literal dream or a literal vocation or a literal calling? The unfortunate, brutal truth answer that I've learned from working with clients is that most people don't. At least not in the time that they think it could happen, at least not in the months or years that I've noticed people on this journey. A client that I may have worked with back in 2021 or 2022, I can see them now, and I remember in those honest, genuine moments of guided golden shadow visualization where they see their golden shadow, they see their higher potential, they see their future self. They have a conversation, we do some parts work. Are they that person yet? No, because they're not old enough. But even if it's someone who's very much them in this time, like you, at this stage of your life, most people do not materialize their potential. I put a community post up earlier this week about Abraham Maslow admitting at the end of his life, Abraham Maslow here, to bring his face in, founder of humanistic psychology, self-actualization king. He admitted at the end of his life to one of his private friends that probably no more than 1 in 100 people actually reach their true potential. And I was blown away by the comments in the comment section from our community, probably close to 100 comments. And most people, surprisingly and shockingly to me, agreed, or at least passively agreed by liking someone else's comment, that it's probably less than 1 in 100, fewer than 1 in 100. I think that's a technically correct way to say it. See, I still haven't fully actualized my literary potential of knowing exactly how to use English language. I've got many decades to go. Less or fewer, or not as many as 1 in 100, maybe 1 in 200, 1 in 500. What is the standard of actualization? It's a wider conversation, but for this particular video, what is the standard of your dream or your calling or your vocation? How do those synonyms cross over, and where do they differentiate? What is the difference between a dream, an egoic dream, a persona dream, or a soul's dream? They're not the same things. Your egoic identity dream based on conditionings from mommy and daddy, from teacher and uncle and auntie and friend and neighborhood is different from persona dream based on your adult life, your adult career path, your adult vocational capacity. Those two things have differentiation between them. I can't break it down in full detail. And those two things paired over here are definitely rather distinct from the soul's dream. The true wish of your soul. Unless you are multiple years deep in your meditative practice, unless realistically you've read a good dozen spiritual books, you've gone pretty far into your journaling, you've spent time in contemplation, you've probably attended a few meditation retreats, maybe like me, you're into fasting. I've done maybe 30 fasts at this point in my life, multi-day fasts, 2 to 5 day fasts, very intense personal reflections. I had my birthday only last week. Guess what I was doing for my birthday? I wasn't fasting, but you can bet that I wasn't chilling on the beach, enjoying myself and getting drunk. I'm keeping it close to my heart what I did for that time, because it's my soul's wish. I'll talk about it in a few months' time. But you can't run away from a true dream. And if you've heard the true dream of your soul, that very special, radiant center is what materializes as the vocation or the calling. It's not that you have a calling or a vocation that appears in front of you and it's absent of that central soul's dream. The soul's dream materializes outwards. It's difficult to describe, but if you have felt this, if you have had a moment in meditation or a moment of visualization or a visionary experience, a mystical peak experience of sorts, or ideally multiple versions over the last few years of you doing your spiritual practice, you can feel the difference between the true center of your soul's dream and the outer materialization or concretization in form, in profession, in vocation, as the literalized dream. Again, outer expression, inner expression. Most people do not reach the outer expression for 2 reasons. 1, they're not patient enough. They realize, okay, actually I need to put in a lot of work to become this true peak potential, fully fulfilled, self-integrated version of myself. But the second thing is that their dream actually isn't fully clothed. It's not fully packaged. It's not the right dream, as it were, because it's a stage removed from the true soul's dream. At this stage in the video, it's going to be difficult to articulate things unless you are multiple years deep onto the inner work journey and you have had a variety of mystical breakthrough experiences of one form or another, so I'm just going to go with that. If you have had glimpses of your true potential, try and look at that gap between what you know yourself to be, yourself to be, those crucial, the spiritual consciousness things, what you know yourself to be, and then the possible alternative materialization of that particular path. For me personally, I have known since my teenage years, and I know pretty strongly to the center of my being that I am meant to be doing this. I am meant to be standing here and teaching. I am meant to be talking and articulating and bringing ideas and concepts and energy into form to help people. It is so abundantly obvious to me. How did I read these 700 books in 5 years? How do I wake up and read for 4 or 5 or 6 hours a day, every single day, while having a fully loaded client practice, while building a YouTube channel from scratch, while building a business, while maintaining everything else in my life? There's something inside of me that was pushing me forwards. Maybe some support from above, maybe some support from deep down below. It wasn't me. I didn't really get a choice. I'm glad that I didn't get a choice, but I didn't get a choice. I had to do this, and I knew I had to do this because I went through probably the first 20 fasts and repeatedly, time and time again, Jordan, you are meant for this. Auditory, non-auditory, somatically, automatic writing, blah, 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 blah. Aren't I a mystical man? I couldn't escape it. There's no possible way for you to escape the soul's dream. It will come back to you time and time and time again. And you almost get a sense of, well, bugger it. I'll just do it. Bugger it all. Fine. 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 I'll build a library. Fine, I'll help people. Because you've got no other choice, and you try and do other things, but they do not fulfill, they do not satiate, and they barely titillate either. Even the luxuries and the novelties. You can go on the trip, you can be with the romantic partner. You can buy the thing, all the things that people do as they start to materialize wealth and success and status. Especially many of the men that I work with, they get a certain stage of business success, or something happens in the company and they start cashing in some of the luxuries and look at all these new romantic partners and look at all these new things that you can buy. But it doesn't fill that God-shaped hole. It doesn't satisfy the soul's dream because it's not the soul's dream. There's something deeper, and I work with these men and women on that deeper essence. And when you felt it, it is an unavoidable, truly unavoidable thing. You almost have to surrender your own autonomy to some degree. Your willpower no longer has a sense of personal or transpersonal being sharply divided. Your personal will and the transpersonal will, as Roberto Assagioli would say, perhaps in a book like this one, Psychosynthesis by Roberto Assagioli, working at the same time as Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud. Take the gold that I'm giving you, my friend. You know what? I'm going to give you extra gold. How about something like this? Transpersonal development. It's very much on the theme. Roberto wants you to actualize your potential. 2 top books. Please, please take them. I'm giving you shortcuts. I'm giving you hints. I'm giving you some real gems here. Just buy the books. Read the books. You'll find that whisper of your soul between the pages. The reason I recommend so many of the books on this channel is because reading, offline reading in particular, to hold Abraham Maslow in your hands with a wonderful highlighter. I'm going to get a highlighter out of my bookshelf. Got one right here. Got some nice earthy colours. Here's 3. To get your golden highlighter, and to be in a moment of materialized meditation when you are with Abraham Maslow and you are reading with the highlighter in your hand and your focus mentally and your focus physically is integrated. To be in that moment of pure attention when you see something inspiring and you just in that moment of looking up. You lose the distinction between you and Maslow, or you and Jung, or you and whoever you're reading. You get so immersed into the meditative experience of learning and studying and being in conversation with the author that something happens that's very special when you're reading a very high quality book. You will feel as if the words are coming from within you. Why I recommend so many books as almost meditation aids for your self-integration process. It's why I'm making a theatre show out of this, a big song and dance, putting a random highlight in the page. I don't even know what I highlighted. Doesn't even matter. Trying to illustrate a point. If you are trying to chase a dream that is not your true dream, it will not sustain you. you'll be able to take a long time away from the materialization of that dream and feel very little resistance. I can speak from a personal feeling of conviction that during my last 12 days of being off for my birthday, maybe this video comes out a few weeks after my birthday is in April, during the last 12 days of me being off, after 2 days of me truly unplugging from work, I'm back to thinking of YouTube videos, I'm back to reading the books, I'm very much doing some pretty significant personal spiritual preparations for the next year of service, because I can't do anything else. It's the same feeling for someone who knows they need to be a mother or a father. They feel within their fascia. Their guts cannot choose anything else. They are torn in knots and they feel this sense of dread and anxiety if they can't begin the pathway of being a parent. It's usually one of these two things. These are two very common examples. Again, not so common, but common within the magnificent few or the self-actualizing few. Again, 1 out of 100, 1 out of 200. To have that real deep calling that I'm meant for this, everything else will feel hollow. It will feel as if you are being dunked in the ocean and you are desperate for air. Everything else will feel like being waterboarded against undesirable situations. You will be... That is the gasp for air when that desperate feeling clutches you from the inside. That is a true dream. I've got a client starting in 15 minutes. They've been watching me for years. We're finally getting it going. First client session. Going to listen to their story. It's the first session of a 4-month mentorship. These first sessions, it's the entirety of your life story. I'm going to listen to the lines and between the lines and behind the lines. And that's how I work with people. I'm excited for this, but I need to end the video even though I could talk about this topic for 2 hours. Please, I know I haven't broken down the difference between calling and vocation and dream, but just take the heart of what I'm sharing here. If you could easily sacrifice what you're doing, or with some resistance sacrifice, if you could realistically imagine yourself doing something else, it's probably not a true dream. It's probably not a true calling. If, like today's questioner, you're scared shitless of your own bigness, maybe there's something there. Maybe that's meant for you. It might take more years or more decades than you feel comfortable with. There might be significant sacrifice along the way, but it might be meant for you. And if you haven't heard that voice just yet, if you haven't felt that in your bones just yet, make the space, turn off the phone, read the books I'm recommending on this channel. It takes years sometimes to hear this, but when you hear it, you cannot unhear it. And life, in some strange ways, gets much easier after that. Because you don't even have a choice. It's your soul's dream, and you are the dreamer. And I'll leave it there. There's a video over here, maybe on transpersonal psychology. I'll see you over there. You got this, come on, you got this. You can do this.